Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Gedling series. This is a small district to the east of Nottingham and it only has 12 of them. Mind you, it's got some belters. Let's take a look. Hello folks, welcome back to Gedling. Now, if you think you've seen this particular vista before, well, you have, because as you can see, I'm on the border here between two parishes. There's Bulcote. You remember that from the Newark and Sherwood series? Well, we've covered that. This time, we're going the other way. We're going this way instead, into the Gedling Parish of Burton Joyce. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Burton Joyce, Jorz's Hillfort. Hello Gedling, it's been a while. It's time to take on one of the largest villages in the immediate vicinity of Nottingham. This is Burton Joyce, which lies on the A612 between Nottingham and Lowdham. It was initially the site of an Iron Age hill fort and it was occupied by the same Norman nobility who founded St Helen's Church. The fort was referred to by the Normans as a Bertune, from which we get the name Burton. In the 13th century, we would get the first version of the modern name when Lord of the Manor Robert de Jorz added his surname into the mix. Eventually, Burton Jorz would become Burton Joyce, and it's by that name we still know it today. From being a farming community, Burton Joyce grew in the early Industrial Revolution and held a mighty reputation for its textile products until the 1920s. Now, many of its inhabitants commute to work in Nottingham. Some notable people come from this village, and two of them in particular are well-loved TV stars. One of them is actress Sherry Hewson, famous for her appearances in Coronation Street and Benidorm. And the other is Matthew Horne, none other than Gavin, in the hilarious BBC sitcom Gavin and Stacey. I guess that makes me Smithy then. Let's walk around Burton Joyce and see what's occurring. So this is Burton Joyce, often described as the friendliest village in Nottinghamshire and one where the locals love to live. We start on Shaftesbury Avenue and straight away we have a massive landmark. This is Burton Joyce Pumping Station, which opened in 1898 and was extended twice in 1908 and 1926 respectively. Originally part of the Nottingham Corporation Waterworks like the one at Papelwick, this was the first station to pump water from boreholes to Mapley and Colic Hill reservoirs. 3 million gallons of it were pumped daily. It was electrified in 1926. A couple of residential streets with some pretty big houses on them bring us to a railway line. You all know this one by now. It's the Nottingham to Lincoln line, and we'll cross this no fewer than 4 times on our route. The fourth and final crossing will be at Burton Joyce railway station. Crossing here takes you towards the gigantic Burton Joyce allotments. I'm sure all the fans out there are loving these. We've hopped back over the railway now, and on Trent Lane is the village hall. This was originally built through the efforts of the local Women's Institute. They had been fundraising for several years in order to purchase a hut for their meetings. In 1925, the hall was opened at a cost of about £3,000. At the outbreak of World War II, many children were evacuated to the village, and the village hall became a primary and a junior school. It remained as such until the early 1960s. The modern hall is where you'll find the parish notice board, so that's another one down in Gedling. 8 to go. In the 1930s, Church Road, the modern A612, was driven through the village, replacing the old main street, which we'll come to later. At about the same time, the Wheatsheaf was built. This is one of 3 pubs in Burton Joyce. It was designed by T.C. Howitt, the nationally known 1930s pub architect, who was also responsible for the Vale Hotel at Daybrook. It's now a chef and brewer pub. Church Road has a couple of amenities, but most are still located on Main Street. One that isn't is the local library, on the fringes of the village centre and opposite Trent Lane. We've gone from lovely 1930s architecture to brutalist 1960s and 70s concrete in the blink of an eye. Tucked away down Chestnut Grove is pub number 2, the Nelson, which combines a feeling of times gone by with informal modernity. This pub is a favourite of Burton Joyce-born actor Matthew Horne, famous for his role as Gavin in Gavin and Stacey. Apparently at Christmas, he's often in the pub from when it opens to when it closes. Over the railway we go again for the 3rd time, this time towards the Trent. We emerge from the railway into the vast open northern bank of the River Trent. Burton Joyce does suffer from floods, although surprisingly it's not the Trent that's the main issue. Instead, it's a small stream which flows into the river, known as Crock Dumble. Recently, some £50,000 has been spent on what's known as natural flood management defences on Crock Dumble in woodlands further up the Trent Valley. This late 18th century footbridge carries this towpath over the Dumble where it enters the Trent. So as you might expect, when the River Trent does flood, these fields, these meadows, are all underwater, but thankfully I don't think it affects Burton Joyce too badly, even though the village is literally just there. There's quite a lot of area here where the water can overtop its banks, so if there was a problem, I don't think it would be, I think it would be more like a catastrophe, wouldn't it, if there was something that affected the village that badly. It's very windy down here, so I'm not going to talk to the camera for too long. Basically, we're following this path towards a sports area, and then we'll turn back towards the village again, across the line. These flood meadows have some tree-shaped landmarks. This is the Diamond Jubilee Grove, which was planted in 2012. Fun fact, according to the Trent Rivers Trust, trees on a riverbank actually help keep the water cool, helping the freshwater species within stay alive in an ever-warming climate. After following the Trent bank for a while, we come to a car park. This is for the local sports ground named Poplars, in reference to the tall trees that line the nearby road. Several sports teams are based here, including Burton Joyce Cricket Club, the Burton Joyce Archers, the Burton Joyce Petanque Club, a walking netball club, and Burton Joyce Bowls Club. The sports ground has a state-of-the-art 3G pitch designed to cope with all weathers, numerous full-size grass football pitches, a full-size cricket square, a bowling green, and a newly completed petanque terrain. There are open-air facilities for keep fit and other sports, as well as indoor facilities for pastimes such as yoga, as well as a fully licensed pavilion and a function room too. Poplar's Sports Ground is widely regarded as having some of the best facilities in the country, and it has the local football team to thank for it all. Burton Joyce Football Club was formed in 1990 and initially consisted of just 2 teams playing wherever they could find a local pitch. The demand for more junior teams saw the club expand until a home ground became a necessity. Over 450 players enjoy football at the club, supported by around 70 coaches and volunteers. It's a big operation. Just north of the sports ground is Burton Joyce railway station on the Nottingham to Lincoln line. This one almost never existed. The builders of the railway faced a good deal of opposition from the Burton Joyce locals, which is why this station is so far away from the village centre. The preferred site for it was originally at the Nelson, but the innkeeper at the time objected on the grounds that he would have to brew more beer. You can't please everybody, can you? The vicar also objected on account of the noise, but he was soon persuaded otherwise after the railway company built him a new vicarage. Money talks. We've hit Nottingham Road now, but we're only here briefly. Here's a bus stop where you can pick up the number 44 to the city centre. This stop is near the Honeypot Day Nursery. This was founded in 1999 by two sisters. The building was once a grocer's and also a doctor's surgery for 21 years. In a nearby garden is the War Memorial. This was built in 1920 and it's made of limestone in a Baroque style. It consists of a square plinth on two steps and a moulded square base. Reverend Theodore Hardy, licensed as a curate to the village in 1899, was the recipient of a World War I Victoria Cross. At this point you'll see Crock Dumble again, making its way under the village towards the River Trent. Next it's Lamble Lane as we start to climb the shallow hill from where Crock Dumble originates. You can't get to Lamble using this road, but you can get to one of the two doctor's surgeries in the village, as well as the Scout Hut, which is next door. Otherwise, Lamble Lane is a dead end. Halfway up the hill is the now redundant United Reformed Church. Formerly known as the Burton Joyce Congregationalist Church, it was founded by a generous endowment made by local yarn and cotton tradesman Samuel Mill in 1896. It closed as a formal place of worship in 2015. Mill used both Bulcote and Burton Joyce's vast acreage of arable land to graze sheep and grow cotton crop. After crossing Crock Dumble again, we're on Padley's Lane, where we find Burton Joyce Primary School. Education in Burton Joyce goes back to at least 1868, when a national school was erected in the village. It was replaced by a new one in 1890, before this modern building came about. The 1890 school still has an educational function, and we'll see what exactly that is shortly. First though, we have to get down off this hill, and to do that we need to follow Padley's Lane to the end, where it meets Main Street, the old main road through the village. Okay, so we're on a little alleyway here called Tim Lane, which takes you right to the parish church, which you could just about see here if that tree wasn't in the way. The spire is literally just behind that tree. So let's continue down here and check out the church next. The church dedicated to St Helen is not the first religious building to have been sited at Burton Joyce. There was an original church, but little is known about it. However, it is known that a reclaimed skerry stone from that building was used to construct the north aisle of the current church by Norman settlers. The aisle, unusually wide for its time, is thought to represent a much larger structure than was customary in that period. St Helen's Church fell into disrepair in the 17th century. In 1677, Robert Thoroton in the Antiquities of Nottinghamshire expressed distaste at various architectural features, deeming them obsolete and unattractive. Repair efforts by church wardens were reversed in 1725 when a flood inflicted damage, costing upwards of £1,000. A poor restoration attempt was then carried out using donations made by the Church of St Mary Magdalene at Newark. All things considered, both the church and its extensive churchyard look pretty good these days. Right next to the church is Burton Joyce's biggest play area, the Roberts Recreation Ground. 2 years ago, this was given a huge makeover thanks to a £100,000 grant from FCC Communities Foundation. It was reopened with a ribbon-cutting ceremony featuring lots of excited, happy children. The Minster Veterinary Centre is opposite as we make our way again towards Main Street. Here's the old school, the one established in 1890. It functioned as a school until the 1960s, at which point it diverted from its primary educational purpose and became the headquarters of the British Conservation Trust of Volunteers. It now houses the Windmill Kindergarten. Pub number 3 is almost opposite. This is the Cross Keys, a traditional, unpretentious local right in the centre of the old village street. It features open-plan carpeted rooms with low wooden ceiling beams and was registered as an asset of community value by Gedling Borough Council in 2016. Now, as you might expect, the old village centre has many old buildings and landmarks, but some of these have changed and evolved over time. The Co-op, for example, is clearly new. This is Burton Joyce's main shop these days. It covers 6,300 square feet and supports 24 local jobs. It even runs on 100% renewable electricity. Nearby is a block of other local shops in a row opposite the old school. Among these you'll find a charity shop, a pharmacy and a coffee shop and deli, a dog-friendly establishment named Nola, which I hear is good for breakfast. After that row, which is pretty modern, you're then into some of the more old-worldy looking buildings. Among these is the Burton Joyce Fish Bar, a dog groomer's and the post office. Despite Main Street no longer being Burton Joyce's main thoroughfare, this still remains the busiest area of the village. Even though it's only 20 minutes from Nottingham, in Burton Joyce there's practically everything anyone could ever need. Towering over everything are the Methodist Church and its schoolroom, which were built in 1908. Together they replaced an original Wesleyan chapel which dated back to 1823, when Methodism first arrived in Burton Joyce. In 2022 there were plans to turn this into a doggy daycare centre. Between the village centre and Bulcote it's vastly residential, save for a garage and the Willow Tree Tea Rooms located on the site of the former Bluebird Cafe. It was opened by 2 former teachers and a mutual friend of both. It's one of many places in the village where the locals meet and chat, and that's something you just have to do if you live here. Burton Joyce is considered the friendliest village in Nottinghamshire for a reason, and polls reckon it ranks within the top 8 best places to live in the county. I don't think that's far wrong. Do you? Okay, so I was just about to drive away from Burton Joyce and head to the next one here in Gedling when I noticed this on the way out of the village. This is on the main 612, the A612. I wondered what it was. I still don't know what it is because my route didn't pass this. So let's have a read. This says, the Domesday Villages. 1,000 years ago, this region was part of Sherwood Forest, which then extended to the River Trent. These extracts from the Domesday Book of 1086 tell us all about the villages, and there's a bit there about Burton Joyce and Bulcote and Stoke Bardow as well, which is the next one I'm going to be going to. On the other side, it says the villages in 2000. The village expanded in the 19th century with the introduction of the framework knitting industry in Burton Joyce. The opening of the Nottingham to Lincoln Railway in 1846 allowed easy communication with Nottingham, encouraging businessmen to travel to the city daily. Nottingham Corporation purchased the Stoke Bardow estate in 1885, but it's now owned by Severn Trent Water, who farm most of the land. And then there's a bit more about the population here of Burton Joyce and Bulcote. We know obviously about Bulcote and how that expanded. That was back in the Bulcote episode, and of course now we know about Burton Joyce as well. So this was put here, I think probably in the millennium, for the millennium I would say. That's quite nice, isn't it? I wonder what this is. It's got Roman numerals on it from 7 all the way to 7 there. Oh, it's probably like a clock, like a sundial, maybe a sundial. A very interesting type of sundial perhaps. Maybe that's what that is. I'm not quite sure because there's no plaque to tell me. Anyway, let's head out of Burton Joyce now and go and find Stoke Bardow. And that'll do us for Burton Joyce. People who know him often say that Matthew Horne is a top bloke. It really is no wonder when you see where he comes from. It's Nottinghamshire's riverside gem with a community to match. Now, speaking of the river, water plays a key role in next week's adventure. Come with me then as we continue through Gedling. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.